Sound check, 1, 2.
This is the 217 Recovery Podcast with Corey Winfield.
He knows as soon as he gives it to her, he's gonna give her his heart to her too.
And we'll have kids and get married.
That's too far.
Holy shit.
It is the 18th of April, 2023. My name is Corey Winfield, and this is the 217 Recovery Podcast. Marney is off tonight, but I am joined by a very special guest we'll get to, and I'll introduce him in just a second. But I do want to say that this broadcast is being done from the North Studio. Yes, the first one ever from the North Studio. That's how awesome we are. We have two studios. So joining me today, Mitchell, I just told you how awesome we were. Welcome to the awesome podcast.
I am so honored to be here for the first inaugural podcast in the North Studio.
I'm glad you didn't say the first annual, because there is no such thing. But that's a whole nother story that will get me worked up on a different topic. But Mitchell, welcome. Welcome to the podcast. Of course, you are an employee of 217 Recovery. Want to throw that out there right now in case people are like, man, he's really kind of sucking up to Corey a little bit here, you know, or whatever. I don't know. I don't want people to think that, because now they'll know why you're sucking up. It's because you're paid.
I mean,
so he is a paid endorser of 217 Recovery.
Paid endorser. Can I put that on my resume?
Yes. Like, well, what do you do? Well, my boss just says that we have to talk nice about 217 Recovery. That's all I know.
He signs my checks. I say nice things. Works out pretty good.
First thing he told me, he was like, come in the office. Is your first day? I was like, get in here. I was like, I'm going to tell you what to say about 217 Recovery.
Take notes.
I mean, it didn't really happen like that, but it kind of did. You know, I was like, let me fill you in on the mission and what we do. And
you got to cover the mission statement on the first day.
I thought it was kind of important.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we met at a vape shop, and it was one of those things. And we've talked about you on the podcast before, so people that are tuning in for the first time probably no idea who I am even. But people that have been following along, they've probably heard me talk about you. And, you know, Marney, we were talking about you starting last week. So
the first time you mentioned me, you used my real name.
I said Mitchell?
Yeah.
And then I'd switch it to Marshall when you started working here?
Yeah. It's been very entertaining.
Yeah. Well, if you saw on your to-do list yesterday that I printed out for you, it was on there, change your name to Marshall.
This is one of the highlights of my day.
No, but is it weird though? Like, you work for a place where your boss is going to say, hey man, before you go home, or he's going to tell you, hey, let's go home, and you're good to go home. And then he goes, hey, get in here and do a podcast.
I think it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's fun. So
I think, yeah, there's worse things you could be doing.
Absolutely. I've done them.
You know, and you have 2 years clean.
Over
2 years clean. You got 2 years and 8 days. 9.
Almost
10.
Almost 2 years and 3 months. In a couple
Okay.
days, it'll be 2 years, 3 months.
Okay, so I would have been going until I got to 90 some days, but
yeah.
I'm proud of you for getting that. That's hard to do.
Thank you.
And I kind of compare it to like hitting the ground running, or running a race. You know, when you have a hard time and you start going and you fall, you get up and you fall, you get up and you fall, but then you start hitting that stride and you're just like boom, 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 and everything's like, oh, okay, this is great. That to me is kind of how recovery is. And once you kind of get some momentum under you, it's like, okay, let's keep this going. Oh yeah, there's water stops at every quarter mile or whatever you want to look at it. You know, there's times where you could break away and head off in your own direction again, but chances are you're gonna have to go back to start. You know, and you're like, oh damn it, and you know, hopefully you're good to go. And one of the things that I talked to you about when the first time I met you was, you know, about recovery coaching and stuff like that, and the videos I was making, and you know, you were kind of interested, and I was like, well, come on by. You know, you came by the office before we even really had too much stuff in here, and it's like, look, man, if this is something that you think that you would want to do in life, you know, be a recovery coach and help other people, you had such a different avenue to get to where you're at than what I had and what Marney had and what Adam had and Justin had. And that I think is valuable for us, you know, to add these pieces. Like if we were all the same, all had the same story, all did the same thing, we'd be good, I think, to like one group of people. But addiction's so widespread and crazy, and it goes from gambling to heroin to coke to drinking to sex to porn. It's all of that, you know. And do we want to cover all of it? I don't know. You know, if God wants us to, I guess we will. But we don't want to make it just like a one direction, one shop I don't know how to even say that. I'm horrible at examples. We don't want to be a movie rental place that only rents one movie. You know what I'm saying?
Only action comedies. That's it.
Yeah. No, not even that. We only rent old school. The only movie we rent. Like we wouldn't do very well. But if we had, just a bunch of comedies and action comedies and dramas and horror movies, it'd be fine. You know, and I think that's what we're kind of doing here with bringing you on. That was a long explanation to say that you had a different pathway. And what is your pathway?
So my pathway, and that's what I was going to say, is every once in a while I'll kind of feel like the odd man out because everybody talks about the sober living houses and the programs like that. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't something that was really ever even revealed to me in my journey. It wasn't really an option that was given to me or that I found. And maybe I was just lazy and didn't dig hard enough to find it. But I tried AA meetings and I worked for almost a year and then didn't. I tried church and counseling through that, and that worked for a while and then didn't. And it was a little bit different because I had the responsibility of my son the entire time. So I probably had a little more support from my family than was good for me. You know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah. It kind of enabled me to pull things out longer than I should have.
Not that you're blaming your family, because they were just trying to do what they knew or thought was right, you know?
Right, exactly. I had this thought actually earlier today, which was like, I've heard people say stuff about how their family wasn't like supporting them at all anymore. And I was like, I wonder if I didn't have that. And I'm grateful for them because, keep me off the streets, keep my son off the streets, keep my son and I together. They're very instrumental in that. But what if they didn't? Would I have hit that rock bottom under the rock bottom a little bit sooner? But I'm not going to hold on to that thought because I'm here, I'm sober, I'm happy, I have my son, everything. I'm on the path, I'm good to go now. It's just kind of a fleeting thought. Holding on to those is not good.
No, but they'll still come up and you'll think about it. But yeah, to just like beat yourself up about not living in a sober living home is kind of silly. But Jason DeBeck was here. Mm-hmm. He stopped by the 217 recovery office today, and he runs Nathan's house up in Boyne City. And that's where, I went. That's where Justin went for sober living. We weren't there at the same time though, but his program is good, and he doesn't put up with a lot of or any like BS from anybody. And us as addicts in early recovery, we're trying to still figure it out, and we're still trying to BS our way through a little bit. We don't want to totally change, not just yet. We're still going to try to do things our way, and Jason doesn't play that. And that was really good for me in my early recovery, was to like, look, mommy and daddy aren't here, and I kind of was like at a point in my life where I'm like, okay, I need to get back to doing what I need to do, and that involves me doing it. And for me, it worked out really good. And, I have a lot of respect for Jason and what he does and the people he helps and the way he helps them. Some people think he's mean. Oh, he throws people out of the house. Well, he doesn't just throw people out of the house. He gives you a chance. And if you mess up, then yeah, you can't be there because it's a sober living home. And I needed that. And some other people do too. So I wouldn't say that you missed out on it, but it was fun. As I'm saying, you missed, it was fun, dude. It really was. At the same time, if you had asked me while I was there, man, wouldn't you stay another weekend here? I said, hell no. Yeah. I'm tired of living with 20 guys. Get me out of here. This is driving me nuts. I'm trying to figure out how to leave. But now you ask me, and I'm like, man, I would have stayed another weekend. For sure. Just another weekend. I mean, we made some friends in there. And of course, when I left, I went to Managers Sober Living Home just down the road, pretty much. So it wasn't like I was too far gone. And being around those guys, you do build a bond with some of them. Some of them you just cannot stand. And those are the people that you see too. And you start realizing that, we're at different levels. Somebody might have went to treatment. This is their first time. And they start saying stuff that you remember you said. And you're like, oh my gosh. And that's when it really starts to set in. Like, oh my gosh, people are at different levels. and people are at different points in their life. You take an older guy who's been to rehab like 6 times, maybe has been through sober living 5 times. He's going to have a way different attitude than the kid who's just coming in his first time in treatment, first time in sober living. He's there because his mom told him he probably should. Way different attitudes, way different experience levels. And not saying that both of them are going to make it or fail, but they have different things that they're, I don't want to say set in their ways, but they're used to or accustomed to or not accustomed to. We hear a lot, oh man, I just need to get out and make some money. Once I get some money, man, I'll get this, I'll get that. And we kind of heard a story about that today from Jason. It's like, oh, once I get out, I'll do this, I'll do that, and I'm going to buy this, and then what? And then you're going to be thrown off your game of doing what you're supposed to be doing, and it's going to cost you. It's going to come back to bite you in the end. So be careful. And going out and making some money, that's not going to do anything. It's going to pay a couple bills. That's it. Are you squared away? Are you set with where you're going to go in life and what you're going to do with that money? It's not about making money, about doing something that has a purpose. Are you doing something that helps other people? Are you taking care of that soul feeding part? I think Marney calls it her recovery tank.
Recovery tank. I can tell you that before I really got, I call it getting my life together, but that's not a good label. Getting sober and living well. Every time I got some money and I got in there and I made some money, it was like, money would really help, and I could pay the bills more, and I could do this and I could get that, and that'll put me in a better place. But what did I use it on? The addiction.
Yeah.
First thing. And that's usually where it would go. And then it would just help that progress more. And then I'd just be further in the hole. So it wasn't until getting some sobriety under my belt and making better decisions that I feel like I was finally getting blessed with more opportunities to have that extra money, because it was like I'm being responsible with it now, I'm proving it, and so it's coming in. So
yeah, you got to be ready for it. Have a plan for it. But when you're in early recovery, that's really what you think, man. If all the stress, what's making me, drink or want to use is because I'm stressed out because I don't have no money. If I had money to pay my bills, I could just come home and eat popcorn and watch TV and everything's fine. I mean, that sounds good. And you start to believe it too for a minute, but that's really not the reality of it.
Right.
It's not how it happens. It's not why you were, drinking. And just to say, oh, I have a therapist, that's all right. It's cool to say that you have one, but if you actually use it and you find one that you really like, one that doesn't tell you what you need to do and what you should be doing, but one who kind of throws it out there to let you figure it out. That's, at least for me, that's how I learn.
And there's different dimensions to that too, because you have to find one that's going to be good for you, because there are the ones that aren't, but you also have to want it. Because you can have a great therapist and then go in, because I know some people that are like, well, I talked to my therapist about this, and I feel a little better, but like nothing's changing. And I'm like, well, did you talk to him about this, and this? And then they just get like offended. And it's like, well, you're going to get angry at people that pull out those things that you should probably be talking to your therapist about. And that's what I really had to do. Is I tried some therapy before. I tried counseling through different areas, and until I got 100% fully honest with the therapist and myself, because I put that mask in, like I had myself convinced of all sorts of different stuff back then. And no, it was once I was truly honest and 100% open about all of it that it actually had some success.
Yeah.
So I just tell people all the time, like, yeah, you have a therapist. You using it properly? Try to say it nicer, but
yeah. Well, most people aren't, and whether they're not comfortable or they just think, well, I'm going to kind of BS my way through this one again. And sometimes I just wasn't comfortable with them, and it doesn't mean that they're bad people. It's just I didn't have that connection where I felt like I could trust them. And if you don't have that trust, it's kind of pointless. But you'll go run through the motions and let everybody know, hey, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But like you said, are you really? No, and they might not even know they're not doing it. They just know, well, I'm seeing a therapist. It takes time to get in there and figure out what you need to get out of your head, and to someone that you trust. And I think just having that trust is huge with the therapist. And don't be afraid to say, look, I kind of try someone else. You know, a lot of people think you're going to offend them. You're not. You know, they're probably thinking the same thing. Like, I can't help this dude. You know, like, you won't listen. I've been throwing this stuff back in his face. Like, maybe I'm to the point where I have to tell him, here's what you need to do. You know, like, and again, personally, I just don't think that's, you know, something therapists should do. And some of them do it. And maybe it was because I wasn't listening to where they were doing the subtle thing and trying to make it my idea. And I'm like, no. And they're like, well, I'm just going to tell him then because this guy's not getting it. Maybe that's what it was.
Another thing was, I was like hyper worried about being honest and open with my therapist when I finally wanted that change and finally really was like, this has to happen for me. And I knew that I had BS'd counselors and therapists in the past and myself, and like that veil was kind of taken away. And I realized that, you know, I was lying not just to them, but to myself too. But then when I finally got the one that worked and then I was like, wanted it to work and go through it, I would get super worried that they were thinking I was just saying the right thing or going through the steps. And I was like, oh, I really hope like, and then that was a thing too. But that was a problem with a lot of my process and journey was, it was so much about the mental health, and anxiety got to be a really big part of it after I got some of the other things out of the way. And it was, you know, people talk about crippling anxiety, but like that's a thing. And I thought like, you know, you get a little stressed and that's anxiety, but no, it got even to the point to where I was doing the right things and the anxiety was holding me back from it because I was afraid people weren't going to believe that I was doing the right things. And I mean this, I swear, I promise.
I'm not just kidding. I'm not BSing you anymore. Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you're here. And, you know, I think the journey is just starting. And 217 recovery, you know, we started and we're about having fun in recovery. And I want to keep it that way. I know I get kind of worked up, or I don't know, there's a lot of things that happen during my day and I get pulled in 80 different directions. And it's hard for me to even send a picture to you sometimes, a logo, you know, I'm just like, what? Driving down the road, oh, I forgot to send that logo.
Hey, Mitchell, don't use the one with the black background. Okay, can you send it to me?
Here's one I'll send you. It has a black background. Here we go, buddy. Here, use this one, the one I told you not to use. Yeah. But I did get it to you later, though. But it was like, yeah. And then I find myself like in meetings that I'm just like, why am I in this meeting? You know, there's this one group that I'm like, yeah, I think that would be good for me to be in this. But then during the meeting, the whole time I'm on the phone trying to figure out if we can get a person to treatment tomorrow. And I don't know, and then someone else calls and then there's people coming in and it was just crazy, man. And it's like, I'm looking at like, do I have time for this meeting? Do I have time to be a part of this organization thing? Like,
you're the man here. Like we all need you, Corey.
No. That's what you guys get paid for, right? Isn't that why money's thrown at you? It's like you guys can do some stuff. But that whole,
I'll get that confidence under my belt after maybe my third or fourth day.
Okay, pick it up a little. No, I was just glad you showed up for your second day. That was pretty awesome. I was like, yes, so far I haven't had anybody that I've hired just like quit and not show up the next day.
I didn't have any other plans. So
like, I'm gonna get paid for that day one. But it was like, I don't know. There's some jobs I had in the past where people would say, "Oh, are you gonna stick around after lunch?" I'm like, "What?" They're like, "Oh yeah." Most people, they come in and they're like, "All right, I'm gonna go to lunch. I'll see it," and they just never come back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, that'd be cold blooded.
They asked me, my boss at the vape shop did that, and that was my first real job after, you know, my starting recovery and everything. You know, went a really long time without a job, and then I did odd jobs and worked for a company that a family member owned, and you know that was like super part-time and like overly forgiving because it was a family member, you know, dashing, and, you know.
It seems like they'd be harder on you.
You'd think so, but I mean, I guess maybe some family members, but not mine. Like this one was more forgiving, and so the vape shop was like my step back out into it. And the next day they're like, well, at least you came back. And I'm like, you guys have no idea how much I appreciate you letting me work here. Like, I'm not screwing this up.
So what was it like leaving them high and dry?
That's what they'll tell you too. No, my boss he totally gets it.
Your ex-boss?
Yeah, ex-boss. He is so fresh. You're my boss. But no, he totally gets it, and he was proud of me, and said some really nice things, and I did my best to be the best I could for him up until my final day, and we had a good talk before I left, and it was really rewarding. And I did apologize to him because I told him so many times, like, I'm gonna be here for a while, like you guys are used to running through employees, and you wanted somebody to stay, and I'm like, I don't have any intentions of leaving. And then God showed up and brought Corey with him, and
yeah. but for real, like, I was in there and I was probably buying a vape that I shouldn't be buying, but I think my tank was mixed up, or I don't remember. But I went in there and I was thinking, like, I should just get a whole new outfit. And you're kind of helping me and assisting me with it, and so was the other guy that was working there. And I started like having to justify why I was buying it, and the fact that I cut my own hair, I cut my own toenails, I buy my own fingernails, I do all that myself. I'm saving the family money, and damn it, I can buy something for myself. And I said, well, I do buy cameras and stuff, and I make videos. And you're like, well, what are your videos on? And I was like, people in recovery, and not, the whole, I use like 8 pounds of coke in one night or whatever. It's more about, here's how my life is different now. Like, our videos are more about, here's what's happening now, and these are the things I have in life, and this is amazing. And you're like, oh. And here's where I want to stop the story, because this could have went two ways. And I'm sure you had this feeling, because I don't know if you were open to your coworkers or your boss at that time, but it could have went two ways. You could have went, that's cool, man. Or it could have went the way it did. Oh, well, that's cool, man. I'm in recovery. And if you wouldn't have said that, you wouldn't be sitting here today, and some people are afraid to tell people they're in recovery. I'm not, because I changed my life for the better. Why would I not want to tell somebody that? For me, that's how it is. I used to keep it down in the dirt, like, don't tell nobody. And that kept me down there until I was like ready to be open about it. And like, yeah, I've changed my life for the better. Why is that bad?
No, I had actually just recently been more open about it, because I was that way too. It's something I struggled for a while, because of somebody that I was very close to and trusted a lot wanted me to live that way and kind of put that shame into me. And I had this part of me that was like, you need to blossom with this, live out loud. Like, this is who you are. And that's all those things are true, but they're like, yeah, but there's a stigma, and then there's this and there's that. So you probably shouldn't. And made me keep it from people that I really didn't want to. And this person had a lot of influence in my life that I let get way too far and way out of hand. So it was probably within a week or two of that conversation you and I had that I made it open to them, that's what it was. And I even apologized for not being open about it in the beginning. And I, really came clean to them about, the fear of feeling unworthy and not finding something. So the timing, that's why I can't not bring God into it, because the timing is just crazy. And I had been struggling. I brought up the other situation with the other person because I had been struggling with the whole living out loud and not doing it, and just having this kind of just eating away inside of me. Like, you need to be doing this. Like, this is that's what you believe. Why aren't you doing this? And the shame and guilt in recovery that you have to get over is just monumentous. And you think that you've got it, you've gotten over it, it shows back up, and it's just a thing that you got to really work on over and over. And it's worth it. Like, don't ever take somebody saying like it's really big that it's not worth it. It really is. But yeah, that timing was just, it blew my mind. And then I almost, didn't do it.
Yeah. Mitchell said he was too good for us. He's like, nah, it's cool, man. I'm just going to stay over here and do my thing. And no, I'm so busy with stuff. I do church stuff too. And like, what? What are you talking about, man? And then after that, I was like, okay, man, I'm gonna screw up your life or nothing. And calls me back up. Hey, man. Oh no, you came in here.
Yeah, well, you invited me. Well, and like it was that whole process of like I had just gotten into the whole telling my boss and coworker that I was in recovery and being open and okay with it. And they asked some questions and I talked, and it was really good and everything. I had just gotten into that. So that appreciation that I had for them was like through the roof. So when you said something about actually working in it, which I smack myself almost daily because I was told earlier in my recovery, hey, we think you'd make a good peer recovery coach. Go get the training and the certifications and we'll think about hiring you. And I kind of made it this like goal in my head. I was like, I want to do that. I can do that. That would be awesome. I love talking to people. I know it's going to be hard and, you know, like just all this stuff, but like somebody else believes in me and it's something I want to do. Like, and then here it comes and hey Mitch, do you think about like volunteering or part-time, maybe full-time? I'm like, nah, man, like I got this good at the vape shop and life's good. And then I went home that night and prayed just my normal prayers, and God kind of grabbed me by the collar and smacked me in the face a couple times going, you asked for opportunities and drop it in your face and you say no. And I was like, I gotta call Corey.
Yeah, it was one of those things, man. It's funny. The same thing happened with how I met Marney, you know, and I fall in love and I start pushing her away. And God's pulling me back, smacking me and going, you prayed for this, dude.
Yeah.
You prayed for this woman right here that I made for you, and she's been down a struggle, but she's perfect. She made her for you. You know, made her for you, you for her. And you're going to say no? Like, what are you doing? You know? And so then things happened how they went, but it was funny though. Because it's like, that's what I tell people. It's like, God had me on the path. I was finally going down it, but I was like, no, I'm going to take my other path over here. And God was like, no, you're not. Get back on this one, you idiot. Like, how do I have to make this more clear to you?
Well, at least you're at a place to where you can acknowledge it, you know, because there were times in my life, I've believed in God almost my entire life. Even when I didn't live that way, I still had that belief, but I, you know, didn't care. And so at least you're at that place now. And I believe that I am too, where I actually care and try and listen. Yeah. And when I don't do it, like the second, you know, you can kind of get that, hey, I wanted you to do this and I showed you and you didn't do it. And
it's all the time. Like when things don't go my way, I get upset. And then I look back later and go, man, I'm so glad that didn't work out that way. Cause that was the wrong thing to do. And you know, there was a reason why that didn't work out. And you can look back at it and go, yep, I'm glad that didn't work out how I wanted it, because that would have been horrible.
And how many times had things worked out the way I wanted it and then worked out horrible? Like, that's a thing that's happened.
Yeah.
More than once or more than 12 times. So,
yeah. But it's, being at whatever point we are to be able to look back at that and go, yep, I'm glad that didn't work out. And to know that there's a reason. It's not up to me to know the reason why. You know, just because something doesn't work out, you can pout about it, you can be mad, you can be upset, sure. But if you look at it with a different attitude, like, okay, there's a reason that didn't work out. And I'm not saying the first door that closes on you to run away and stop, because we've had many doors close on us here, you know, with 217 recovery, where let's go this way. And it's like, no, I didn't give up on the whole mission of it all, but I would just try things in a little different manner. You know, when we first started, I was like, oh, well, I need to do this and be this kind of driving company, and we need to, you know, be able to take people to their doctor's appointments and stuff. And so I tried to get on with the people that work for Meridian, MTM. I need to be a part of their network, and that'd have been horrible, dude, because how the state pays, they pay a certain rate for mileage, and I would have been driving it would have been worse than the Uber driver. No offense, Uber drivers, but I did that before too. That was not a good adventure for me. But the price that they would pay me is like half, so they would get half of the money that was reimbursed, and they were doing zero of the work, you know. And they said because I had the drunk driving that no, I couldn't do it for them. And I was like, what? Which I guess shouldn't shock me, but they made me run through the ringer and take all these background checks and all these safe defensive driving course. But I didn't know like later that was probably going to pay off for me and saving me on insurance and stuff like that. So yeah, did I pay for it to take it? Sure. Did it save me down the road? Maybe. But I'm glad it didn't work out there.
I've really learned to be grateful for the things that didn't work out. Some of it's kind of a newer concept to me, and it's a lot of people know that. Like a lot of people are listening right now. Like, yeah, you didn't know that? I was like, well, yeah, I've done a lot of dumb things in my life, but looking back, even on some of the more recent things that I could label as bad, and seeing good things that have come out of it, and I'm like, well, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have gotten this opportunity. If I didn't deal with that negative thing, I wouldn't have gotten this positive opportunity. And what would have happened if that didn't, and it's just being grateful for everything. That's how I spend the last 15, 20 minutes before I go to bed, being grateful for everything.
That's what we call that now, huh?
Being grateful.
All right, I'm gonna go be grateful tonight.
Grateful right in the morning, grateful
Okay,
for
let's
bed.
not talk about that. But no, I think you were talking about really praying, so that's good.
Yes. Yeah.
It's taking it down a different road.
I am aware.
Yeah. Anyway, so now do you have more sympathy for Marney? What she has to put up with? Or do you feel like I took it easy on you today or tonight or whatever?
I think it's really awesome that, because I've listened to a lot of the podcasts and I've been really into them, and I'm not sucking up and you're not paying me to say that.
I'm not paying him to say that.
Yeah.
Stop the clock. He stopped working 25 minutes ago.
Yeah. I think it's really cool how your guys' dynamic on the podcasts, which I love to begin with. Like, that was one of my favorite parts, was the way you, and then she gets kind of like, and then, back and forth. You know what I mean? If you've heard any of the podcasts. And it's fun. And you guys are like that in the office. Talking like that's like I mentioned earlier. It's like you guys were just like talking back and forth about business stuff, and I'm just sitting there with like this big smile on my face, and I'm like, ask me while I'm happy, please ask me while I'm happy. And I was gonna be like, I feel like I'm in a podcast right now, and then you let me do that later today, which was awesome. But anyway, no, like I just think that's the coolest thing. So
yeah, we're just like that off the podcast too, so I'm not on here trying to be famous. I'm not here trying to make money off this. We don't make any money off this. I spend money. This is a hobby for me, but it keeps me sober. So hell yeah, I'm going to keep doing it. And now it's like we have the most episodes of any recovery podcast on the earth,
which is awesome.
That's kind of cool. And we've only been at it 4 years, that's pretty awesome. And I'm going to keep growing that because I don't plan on ever using it again. So today I'm not going to. So you hear a podcast, and every day that I'm sober, I'm going to keep doing, not every day I'm doing a podcast, but every week, and every chance we can, we're going to keep doing them, and it's only going to grow. And that's something that's going to be really super cool one day. And if, God blesses me with a child or children's, that's awesome. And maybe have grandchildren's one day and great grandchildren's, and they can listen to this and go, wow, Grandpa Corey was freaking nuts, wasn't he? Like that dude, how did Grandma Marney put up with his crazy ass? Like, why didn't she punch him at this time? And who knows? But it's something that can survive, and that's something that not a lot of people can say. A lot of people can write stuff too. You can journal, you can blog. Like that's something that's really cool that maybe one day, generations down the line, can pick something up from it. Especially if you're talking about recovery in your struggle, and to let them know, hey, here's how it was way back in 2023. We gave people Suboxone, and they'll be like, what? Like, how'd they get them off that? Well, they had another one called Lickboxing. What? How'd they get them off that? Well, we give you Suboxone, then you take the Lickboxing, then we get the Tickle Boxing, and what? From the same company, you guys didn't fall for that shit over again? Well, after the third, fourth time, we got over it. Sounds a lot like the opiate crisis. Well, that's what brought on the lipity crisis. See, that was after the opiate crisis because we kept falling for that shit. That's what they'll say.
Big Pharma's a myth.
Yeah, it is. No, I was talking with DeBeck about that earlier today, and I think I've talked about it on the podcast earlier, but like Michigan, man, like they don't care. They're not about us, man. And that's sad because they act like they are. And there might be some politicians out there. I talked to one today, and I don't know, sounded good. We'll see. But they get their money from what's killing us. They get their money from liquor, from cigarettes, you know, and even from gambling. And where are they not getting the money from? Pharmaceuticals. Oh wait, where did they just get all that billions of dollars from? The pharmaceuticals. Mm-hmm. And who was the quickest to jump to the table and take the money and run? The state. MDHHS. Yep. Yeah, they took the money, they run, and then we're like, wait, you're going to tell us what we're going to do with it? And they're like, we don't have to. Wait. Here's your little pieces. Go talk to your people that represent your county. Wait, what? I thought you were going to help people. Like, it sounded good when you're like, we're going to put this money backward to help the people that were affected by it, to help the families. Okay, they might have. Who knows? But they're not telling us. And that's just like, just makes you shake your head and think about, you know, next time that they're like, well, you can't do this because we care about you. Shut up. You know, they make money off all of that. And if you were to take it away, if you really wanted to hurt the state, don't gamble, don't drink, don't smoke. Do that for a month. State will be hurting.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, oh, then people won't get to treatment. Well, that's not about that. There's tons of money to help people get to treatment. They just don't put it out there right.
You know what, Corey? I think next time we do this, you should talk about something that you're passionate about.
What do you mean? Talk about ice cream? I like ice cream. That's killing me too. You know?
No, you had some very, very deep feelings coming out of you just then.
Really?
So, yeah.
I thought I was held back a little bit.
That's what I'm saying.
No, and that's the beauty of it. You know, like, this is my therapy, man. I can use this to get stuff off my chest. And am I right all the time? No. But I'll bring up some points that'll make people think. Like, I think everybody should have counseling. Everybody should have access to a therapist for free.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Free. Oh, when I brought that up to the politician today, she was like, I thought you wanted to go fight the big companies, but I guess we'll talk about that later, I told her. Because for real, man, if you want to get to help people and you want to clear up the mental health issues, I don't know if it'll clear it up, but I know it's just not fair for the guy who's got 2 kids in his marriage, maybe paying child support for one with another wife, and, you know, he's working, his wife's working, but yet him or his wife have the money to go see a therapist every week. But yet,
that's what turned me around.
People who are on Medicaid, you know, which, and they should, they're the ones kind of setting the standard here. They can. You know, is that fair for the guy who's out there busting his ass and working and trying to support these kids and this wife and this family and this other kid who had, but yet he can't go see, he's the one, he needs to see a therapist. And so does the wife.
Not fair at all.
But they're supposed to pay this and that, and it depends what health insurance they have and how much they pay and how much, it shouldn't be about money.
And I lived that too. Had a job that had insurance and stuff. And they even had where they offered it cheaper because of where it was.
Yeah.
And it was still expensive and it was still hard. And I was, I was a drunk that couldn't focus on much more than my work at that point and barely holding on to that. So then you had to sign up for it and they're like, here's the sign. And then it didn't work. And it's like, they don't make it easy.
No. And if they would pay the therapist appropriately, you know, and that's part of the thing too, is some therapists, like if this insurance we're going to get, my therapist, not a fan of that one because she makes a whole lot less. And you think, well, that's not fair. You know, here I am now going to have to pay out of pocket and she's making, you know, less. You know, she'll make a little more, but she's like the paperwork and all this. And it's just like, she's like, it's not worth it. Like, I'd rather take a client from somebody else. And if you just paid them straight across the board, I think that would make it a lot easier because now if she's like, no, I'm not going to see you because you have insurance, which she has every right to. Now I'm out looking for another therapist and it took me 5-6 years to find one that I could finally trust. So who wins there? You know, and you never know what therapist is going to work with somebody and how long it's going to take to find one. But I think it should be an option to find one until you find one. Not, oh, well, they're not in your network or they're in your network. They're not. Oh, come on, man. Like, can we just get somebody some help?
Yeah.
And not everybody will take advantage of it. Some people are like, I'm not going to see no therapist. I'm not crazy. Okay.
That's one of the reasons the aliens won't come visit us.
Why?
Yeah.
Because we're crazy?
We're crazy and we don't help our people. They're like, yeah, we need intelligent life.
You don't think they're up there working on an upgrade? A little firmware upgrade? I think that's what
So to download it into us and we can do it all better.
Yeah, we're gonna
I hope so.
Send it to us from the moon signals. We're living in the moon.
As long as we don't keep shooting missiles at it. That was like a few years ago now. But
it's a whole nother podcast, bro.
I know that's the problem with me having listened to so many of your podcasts. It's like I want to reference them all.
How many I can get into? Yeah. Well, we better wrap it up. We gotta go talk at the treatment center tonight. But
See our homies.
The first North Studio podcast, and hopefully it sounds all right. It should. I don't know. Figure it out.
Still super honored to be the one.
No one else can take that from you.
It'll be ours forever.
Thanks for listening. 217recovery.com is our website. And there's some events on there you might want to check out, some links, tons of resources on there. And if you ever want to get in contact with us, just send Mitchell an email. Mitchell, spelled just like it sounds.
Not Marshall.
No, not Marshall. Mitchell at 217recovery.com. Or you can hit me up as well, Corey at 217recovery.com. Or Marney, Marney. Or Adam. You're like, who's Adam? Adam will be on tomorrow. Or Justin. It's their first name at 217recovery.com. Pretty simple. And
I dig it.
Oh, no, I just took Tyrone's email down because he wasn't using it. Tyrone99 at Gmail or something. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, we'll holler at you later. Have a good day.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the 217 Recovery Podcast. We hope you come back for our next episode.